Hello everyone, we have Sankalp with us. So Sankalp is an computer science graduate from NIT Warangal, graduated in 2018. He then went in to do his MBA from IIM Calcutta. He is currently in the second year. He has had a venture before WorkerHub, and currently he has his venture WorkerHub on which he is working currently. So Sankalp, can you tell our viewers about WorkerHub?
At WorkerHub, we try to connect contractors with laborers and also companies with directly laborers. So we are kind of trying to formulate a platform wherein contractors can very easily find new laborers, even if without knowing to need personal touch about them. For example, many a times it happens. For example, that there are XYZ company who needs 10,000 laborers, but you don't have that capacity of laborers, or your contact base is very, very less. At that time, as a contractor, you can take up those contracts, but due to unavailability of information and database, you are restricted to your own numbers. So we wanted to solve that one issue first. So basically, WorkerHubs is a platform for companies and contractors to directly outsource and find laborers. So that is the main concept that we are working on.
Right. So I think my second question would be, how and when did you come up with this idea, and what was the inspiration behind it?
So idea is very interesting, I guess. It was during lockdown. We always stuck at home. Even my internship at Udan was scrapped, and I had nothing to do it at all. So we were just waiting that something would happen, and I'll find a new internship or those kind of things. And just I went on a walk with my friend, and we were just discussing that due to lockdown, this migration issue has come up on a huge extent, and how could we actually solve them? What can be done to bridge this gap? We found that there was a information asymmetry between companies, contractors, and laborers about availability of jobs, availability of their own time, what skill set do they have, what kind of location they prefer, all those things. There was no such platform or community where they can directly reach out and find these things. So inspiration was that we want to somehow transform these people and save their past experiences so that it can be used further. So if you see Ola cabs or Uber, so before their entry into the market, you can see that drivers, you cannot understand what kind of driver a particular person was earlier. Okay, so now due to rating and all those things, now you have something, you can differentiate between a good driver and a bad driver. So essentially, a good driver will always be benefited by it. Okay, so that is also another aim behind here, that we want to help at least those good laborers who have done their work so well so far, who have very quality skill with them. So but there is no way that they can signal their quality of work right now. So that this platform would definitely help them to do that.
Right. So while you have been working on this idea, what was the major bottleneck that you faced that that hindered your progress in this startup?
So one was definitely, we started in COVID, as I said, during pandemic. So every time we had to send any particular labor, we confirmed from, suppose we got a contract from a contractor or a company to, for let's say 200 labors, and now 50 odd labors are already ready. So every time we used to send them, so some new rule used to come in Mumbai. So let's say sometimes it was e-pass was required. Sometimes they asked us to get a COVID testing of them, which labor would not do. It was an additional expense for them, and they simply won't do it. So these kind of challenges were huge. Now, if I see now, our new current challenges are based on new labor laws. So if you find it out, so we are trying to cope up with the new labor laws, and the changes are actually positive for both laborers and us. So that way, that is one thing that we are working on. Let's see, we are hoping that it will turn out to be good.
All right. So Sankalp, you have had a venture before this also, before WorkerHub.
Right.
So what compelled you to join a B school, and how do you think that your first year in B school and currently you're doing the second year, how it has helped you to actually start a new venture and take it forward?
Right. So earlier when I was in my first venture, most of it was really trial and error. So I used to try all these different strategies, and it was not really a strategy, I would say. I used to try different methods, and out of them, whichever was successful, that was how company was moving earlier. Now, having a overall perspective from an MBA, I've learned about different stakeholders, what their needs are, and how to manage them. Basically, how you have to prioritize many things. Every startup has different phases, and at every point of time, you will find out that the goal of a startup is very different. Sometimes when you are into very entry mode and you have not taken any kind of funding, so at that time maybe increasing your market share and your presence is an important part. Okay, once you want to go for an IPO or those kind of things, at that time you may think of having some profits and all those things. So at every different stage, your priority and goal of your startup might change. So I would say these kind of clarity, how to prioritize these things, how to make every stakeholder satisfied. These kind of things were very helped only by an MBA, and I was really thankful that I took this decision. Earlier, I was an anti-MBA during my earlier startup. I used to think that all the MBA guys, these people, they're just wasting 25 lakh or whatever amount, and at last they know nothing about a business. All they're gonna do is job. So, but yeah, fortunately, my perspective slowly changed, and now I'm able to use that expertise to develop and build a new venture. Yeah.
So kind of a change of a heart, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is what do you think that you would be doing if you are not doing an MBA currently?
I think it's a very good question. I don't think so. To become successful, you need an MBA. Okay, suppose if I had not done this, maybe I still might have done some trial and error and still find out a way of my old venture itself, and maybe I could have done something much better there also. There's a huge possibility there. So actually an MBA is just a accelerator. It is not that it's a necessary thing to become successful. Sometimes people, due to an MBA, they think they are doing too much of analysis, too much of too over analysis does not help as an entrepreneur. You have to take risk. You cannot always think that okay, this is not going to happen and this is what it's too risky, I won't take this kind of challenges. If you keep on thinking that way, maybe your startup won't enter into the first phase itself. So the risk factor in an entrepreneurship is different, and as an MBA, the analysis and all those things that you do, they are different. So I think now it's a perfect balance for me. So earlier I was just a risk taker. Now I think I can understand where to take the exact risk and where should I stop. So that has been very significant improvement, I would say. So yeah, to answer your question, I would still have been into my previous venture. Maybe like Jeff Bezos or someone, I could have still starved for 13-14 years, but it really requires too much of consistency to be there. So yeah.
Okay. So my next question is, how do you balance your, the venture you're having currently and your academic work in your B school? And could you give some tips to fellow B schoolers who are actually thinking of having a venture of this?
Right. So I think after your first term in an MBA, once you are done with the summer placements, you can easily find out some particular amount of time during college also. I was lucky enough that pandemic gave me an flexibility to work for a continuous time, for a significant time continuously, I would say, and that was a benefit that I received. But even after once where our classes were started, it was really very hectic for me to balance both of these things. So the weekends that I used to wait for partying in my college, now these weekends I used to wait for working more harder for my own startup. So weekends were kind of entire planning and all what I have to do in the next 5 days, and more importantly, how I have to get it all executed. So I remember for the first 4 months when I started, I used to sleep at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, continuously working for my startup. And from morning 10 o'clock to evening 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, I used to have classes continuously. So it was kind of hectic, really, very, very hectic. But once you have sorted that out, I guess things take their own shape and their own path, and you can find a way out. And to all my fellow B school students and my fellow mates, I would say, guys, we have that expertise, we have that potential right now. We are the top 1% of a country who have that thing inside us who can make the change. And our country needs this kind of expertise to really people who can take such an initiative and bring the change in our society. So I believe if due to this video, if even one person stands up, so I believe this interview would be very successful in my perspective.
Yeah, I personally hope that people do find inspiration, and I am personally inspired. And so thank you very much, Sankalp, and we wish you your all the best for your venture. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks.